I stood at the edge of my father's backyard, watching fairy lights twinkle across the deck where 200 guests celebrated his 60th birthday. The summer air in San Francisco was perfect, warm but not too hot, and everyone seemed genuinely happy. My father, David Chen, looked healthier than he had in months. Maybe those new vitamins were finally working. Mr. Harrison, my father's accountant of 23 years, appeared beside me. His face was pale. "Madison," he whispered, his hand trembling as he pressed something small and metallic into my palm. "I need you to come with me, right now. Don't tell anyone, not your stepmother, not Kyle, not even your father knows I'm doing this." My fingers closed around a USB drive. "What are you talking about? Is Dad okay?" "There's something I need to show you. Something your father asked me to give you if—" He stopped, his eyes darting toward the party. "Please, we don't have much time. Follow me to my car." The urgency in his voice made my stomach drop. Mr. Harrison had been my father's right hand since before I was born. I'd never seen him like this, scared, almost frantic. Without a word, I followed him through the side gate. In his car, he pulled out a laptop and plugged in the USB drive. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely click the mouse. "6 months ago, your father asked me to investigate some irregularities in his medical expenses, Mr. Harrison said quietly. "Madison, what we found." He opened a folder labeled Evidence. "Do not delete." The first file was a laboratory report. I scanned the technical language, my marketing degree useless for understanding the medical jargon, but certain phrases jumped out. Trace amounts of digoxin, consistent with chronic poisoning. Therapeutic levels exceeded by 300%. "I don't understand," I said, though ice was already forming in my chest. "Dad takes heart medication. This is probably just—" "Your father doesn't have a heart condition," Mr. Harrison interrupted. "He never has. Those pills Rebecca gives him, the ones she says are vitamins, I had them tested." He opened another file, photographs of small white tablets. They contained digoxin. It's a heart medication that, in the wrong doses, causes heart failure symptoms, weakness, fatigue, confusion. Given over months, it mimics natural decline. The world tilted. "Rebecca is poisoning him?" "Not just her." He clicked to another folder. Bank statements filled the screen. "Kyle has been helping. Look at these transfers, 50,000 here, 30,000 there, all to offshore accounts. They've been skimming from your father's company for 2 years. I stared at the numbers. My stepmother, the woman who'd married my dad when I was 18, who'd seemed genuinely kind, who'd made him smile after years of loneliness following my mother's death, and Kyle, her son from her first marriage, who was only 3 years younger than me. I'd considered him a friend. Why would they do this? My voice sounded distant. Mr. Harrison pulled up a document, my father's will. Your father's company is worth $52 million. Under the current will, Rebecca gets 40% if he dies, Kyle gets 10%, and you get 50%. But there's a clause if you're deemed unable to manage the inheritance due to any reason, Rebecca becomes executor with full control until you're 40. I'm 31. I'm perfectly capable of. That's what they're counting on you thinking. He opened an email chain. I recognized Kyle's email address. The messages made me sick. "Mom says the old man is getting suspicious. We need to speed things up. Once he's gone, we'll contest the will. Madison's never even worked in business, will claim she's incompetent. With the right lawyers, we can tie this up for years. And if that doesn't work, we have Plan B. The one we discussed with Marcus." "Who's Marcus?" I asked. "I don't know. But I'm afraid for you, Madison. Your father became suspicious 3 months ago. That's when he came to me. We've been working with someone to build a case. But your father insisted you not know until we had everything we needed." "Why?" "Because he didn't want you in danger. And because," Mr. Harrison's voice cracked, "because he wasn't sure at first. He loves Rebecca. He didn't want to believe it. Even now, even with all this evidence, it's killing him to face the truth." I looked back toward the party. Through the fence, I could see my father laughing at something, Rebecca said. She was touching his arm, smiling up at him with what looked like genuine affection. Kyle stood nearby, his phone in his hand as always. "Why are you showing me this now?" I asked. "Because tomorrow, your father is supposed to sign new business papers. Rebecca convinced him to restructure the company, add her and Kyle as equal partners. He's been putting it off, but she's been pushing. If he signs those papers, they'll have legal access to everything. They won't need him to die. Mr. Harrison's jaw tightened, and I think that's when they'll make their move. Against you. The USB drive felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. What do I do? Your father left instructions. He wanted you to have all the evidence. He wanted you to be safe. But Madison, he met my eyes. Your father is dying. Not from poison. We've been switching his pills for months, replacing the ones Rebecca gives him with actual vitamins. But he has stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He found out a year ago. He has maybe 6 months left. The world stopped. What? He didn't tell anyone. Not even Rebecca, he said. He said he wanted to see who people really were before he died. He wanted to know if Rebecca loved him or his money. Mr. Harrison's voice broke. Now he knows. I couldn't breathe. My father was dying. The man who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd stayed up all night helping me with college applications, who'd given me away at my wedding only to support me through my divorce 2 years later. And he'd been facing this alone. Does Rebecca know? About the cancer? No. Your father has been pretending the poisoning symptoms are real. It's the perfect cover. She thinks she's succeeding. That's why he looks so weak at the beginning of the party and then recovers. He's acting. Suddenly, the pieces fell into place. The way Dad had insisted on this big 60th birthday party when he normally hated fuss. The way he'd asked me to come home from Seattle for a long visit. The way he'd been asking me about my job, my life, my plans, like he was trying to memorize every detail. What are his instructions? I asked quietly. Mr. Harrison pulled out a handwritten letter. My father's familiar scrawl covered the page. Madison, if you're reading this, then you know the truth. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I needed to be sure, and I needed to protect you. By the time you get this, Mr. Harrison and I will have everything ready. But we need your help for the final piece. Rebecca and Kyle need to incriminate themselves beyond any doubt. That's where you come in. Trust Mr. Harrison, trust Agent Morrison, and know that I love you more than anything in this world. You've always been my greatest achievement. Dad, who's Agent Morrison? Mr. Harrison reached for his phone. He's FBI, White-Collar Crime Division. Your father and I brought him in 2 months ago. He's been building a case, but he needs concrete evidence of intent, not just financial fraud, but proof they meant to harm your father. That's why we've been waiting. My hands were shaking. You want me to help trap them? Your father does. He wrote out a whole plan. But Madison, you need to understand, this is dangerous. If they suspect anything, if they think you know. He didn't finish the sentence. I looked at the USB drive in my hand. On it was everything: bank records, lab reports, emails, photographs. Everything that proved my stepmother and stepbrother were monsters. Everything that proved my father had been fighting a secret war while pretending everything was fine. What's the plan? I asked. An hour later, I walked back into the party with a smile plastered on my face. My father saw me, and his eyes asked a silent question. I gave the tiniest nod. His shoulders sagged with what looked like relief. Rebecca materialized at my elbow. There you are. We were wondering where you disappeared to. Are you feeling all right? You look pale. Just needed some air, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. Excited about tomorrow. Her perfectly shaped eyebrows rose. Tomorrow? Dad told me about the business restructuring. I think it's wonderful that he's bringing you and Kyle into the company officially. You've both been so good to him. Each word tasted like poison, but I smiled through it. Something flickered in Rebecca's eyes, surprise, maybe, or suspicion, but she recovered smoothly. Oh, well, it's really David's decision. We're just happy to support him however we can. Kyle joined us, drink in hand. At 28, he had the kind of conventionally handsome features that had always made people trust him instantly. Now all I could see was the coldness in his eyes. Supporting Dad? He asked. Always. Someone has to look out for him now that he's getting older and more forgetful. Dad's not forgetful, I said sharply. Kyle shrugged. You haven't been around much, Maddie. Living up in Seattle with your fancy marketing job. We're the ones here day to day. We see how he struggles sometimes. The gaslighting was so smooth I almost missed it. They were already building their narrative, David Chen, declining in health and mind, dependent on his loving wife and stepson. Well, I'm here now, I said. Actually, I've been thinking about moving back to San Francisco. My company is opening a branch here, and they offered me a position. This was true, though I'd turned it down a month ago. Rebecca's face froze for just a second before her smile returned. How wonderful. It would be nice to have family close. But her eyes said something different. The rest of the party crawled by. I watched my father pretend to tire, watched Rebecca and Kyle exchange glances, watched as Rebecca carefully handed Dad another pill for his heart. He palmed it smoothly we'd practiced earlier, and I saw him slip it into his pocket when no one was looking. At midnight, the last guests left. My father hugged me tightly. I'm proud of you, he whispered. Tomorrow, we finish this. In my childhood bedroom that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about my mother, who died of actual heart disease when I was 16. I thought about how Rebecca had shown up 2 years later, a widow herself, seemingly kind and gentle, how eagerly my father had grabbed onto the possibility of love again. Had she been planning this from the start? Or had greed crept in slowly? At 3 a.m., I heard voices downstairs. Carefully, I crept to the top of the stairs. Think she suspects? That was Kyle. No. Rebecca's voice was firm. She's too trusting, just like David. Tomorrow he signs, and then we can move forward. What about Morrison? My blood froze. They knew about the FBI agent. Marcus is handling it, Rebecca said. By tomorrow night, any evidence Morrison thinks he has will be contaminated. Marcus has a contact in the bureau who'll make sure the case falls apart. And Madison? A pause. The accident is set for Tuesday. After the funeral, she'll be devastated, not thinking clearly. We'll have her sign the papers giving us temporary control. By the time she realizes what's happening, everything will be locked up legally. If she fights, we'll use the mental health angle: grief, depression, unable to make sound decisions. My hands gripped the banister. They were planning to kill me. I still think we should just... No, Rebecca snapped. No more direct action. David's death needs to look natural. Madison's needs to look like an accident. We're too close to screw this up with impatience. I backed away silently and locked my bedroom door. My phone was already in my hand. Mr. Harrison answered on the first ring. Madison? They know about Morrison, I whispered. They have someone inside the FBI. And Rebecca, she's planning to kill me. Tuesday. She called it an accident. Silence. Then, I'm calling Morrison now. Stay in your room. Lock the door. Don't come out until morning. The night lasted forever. I sat with my back against the door, phone clutched in my hand, listening to every creak and footstep in the house. At dawn, my father knocked softly. It's me, sweetheart. Let me in. I unlocked the door. He looked smaller somehow, frailer, but his eyes were clear and angry. Morrison knows, he said quietly. He's been monitoring Rebecca's communications. The contact in the bureau is actually one of his own people, feeding her false information. She thinks she's ahead of us. She's not. Dad, this is too dangerous. We should just call the police. And say what? That my wife might be poisoning me when I have no symptoms. That I have cancer but I'm hiding it. Madison, we need proof. Solid, undeniable proof. Today, we get it. At 10 a.m., we gathered in my father's study for the signing. Rebecca wore a cream dress and pearls. Kyle was in a suit. They looked like the perfect family. Mr. Harrison was there. Papers spread across the desk. And someone new, a man I didn't recognize, introduced as Marcus Reed, business consultant. So this was Marcus. He was maybe 40, slick-looking, with cold eyes that assessed me like I was a problem to be solved. My father sat behind his desk, looking every inch the wealthy businessman, but I could see the tremor in his hands that he couldn't quite hide. Before we begin, Dad said, I want to make sure everyone understands what these papers mean. Rebecca, Kyle, you'll become equal partners in Chen Industries. You'll have access to all accounts, all decisions, all assets. We understand, David, Rebecca said warmly, and we're honored by your trust. Good. Dad picked up a pen. His hand shook harder. Because family is everything, isn't it? Of course, Kyle said. But his eyes were on the papers. Hungry. Then you won't mind, Dad continued, if I make one small addition. He pulled out another document. This states that in the event of my death, Madison becomes CEO with full control. You'll retain your partnership shares, but she'll have final say on all decisions. Just to protect the company's legacy. Rebecca's smile didn't waver, but her fingers tightened on her purse. David, is that really necessary? Madison has her own career. She's not interested in running Chen Industries. Actually, I said, I've changed my mind. Dad's been teaching me the business. I think I could do it. Kyle's jaw clenched. You don't know anything about running a company. I'll learn. I smiled at him. We're family, right? You'll help me. The temperature in the room dropped. Marcus cleared his throat. Perhaps we should discuss this addition before. No need, Dad said. He was smiling now, and there was something fierce in it. Unless you object? Rebecca? Kyle? They were trapped. To object would reveal their true intentions. To agree meant losing control. Rebecca recovered first. Of course not, darling. Whatever you think is best. Dad signed the first document, then the second. As he did, I saw Mr. Harrison's hand move to his pocket. Somewhere, I knew, Agent Morrison was recording everything. There, Dad said. All done. We're official partners now. Rebecca stood, moving to kiss his cheek. As she did, she pulled a pill bottle from her purse. You look tired, darling. Take your medication. This was it. The moment we'd planned for. Dad took the bottle, opened it, and tipped 2 pills into his palm. Actually, Rebecca, I've been meaning to ask you about these. Mr. Harrison had them tested. Curious thing, they're not vitamins at all. Her face went blank. What are you talking about? They're digoxin, a heart medication. Funny thing is, I don't have a heart condition. He set the pills on the desk. Want to explain why you've been giving me heart medication for months? Kyle moved toward the door. Marcus did the same. But the door opened before they reached it, and Agent Morrison stepped in, flanked by 2 other agents. Nobody move, Morrison said. He held up a badge. FBI, Rebecca Chen, Kyle Matthews, Marcus Reed, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted murder, and conspiracy to commit murder. Rebecca's face drained of color. This is insane. David, what are you doing? What I should have done months ago, Dad said quietly. I know everything, Rebecca. The poison. The money you've been stealing. The plan to kill Madison. He stood, and suddenly he didn't look frail at all. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? I built a $50 million company from nothing. I'm not the confused old man you wanted me to be. You're dying, Rebecca screamed, and there it was, the mask falling. The cancer, you have 6 months. Why should you care what happens after you're gone? You were going to leave everything to her anyway. She pointed at me. Your precious Madison, who barely visits, who moved away, who was too busy for you. I have stage 4 pancreatic cancer, Dad said calmly. That's true. But I wanted to spend my last months knowing the truth about the people around me. You failed the test, Rebecca. Both of you. Kyle lunged at me. This is your fault. You turned him against us. An agent grabbed him, forcing his arms behind his back. As they put handcuffs on him, his face contorted with rage. We gave him everything. Mom made him happy. We took care of him, and you show up and ruin everything because you want all the money for yourself. I didn't want the money, I said quietly. I wanted my father to be loved for who he is, not what he has. They took Rebecca out screaming. Marcus went silently, his face expressionless. The FBI agents promised us they'd found evidence of the planned accident for Tuesday, a sabotaged brake line on my rental car, set to fail on the highway. When they were gone, the house felt eerily quiet. Mr. Harrison excused himself. Dad and I sat in his study, neither of us speaking for a long moment. I'm sorry, he finally said. I'm sorry you had to see that. I'm sorry I put you in danger. I'm sorry for all of it. You have cancer. My voice broke. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted to protect you as long as I could. Because I wanted one more year of you not looking at me like I'm dying. Because I'm your father and I'm selfish and I wanted to be strong for you just a little longer. I moved around the desk and hugged him. He felt thinner than I remembered, more fragile, but his arms around me were still strong. "We'll fight it," I said. "We'll find the best doctors." "Madison." He pulled back to look at me. "I've already been to the best doctors. This is the hand I was dealt, but I'm going to play it the best way I can. And that means spending whatever time I have left with you. Really with you. No more secrets." Over the next weeks, the case against Rebecca, Kyle, and Marcus built steadily. Agent Morrison found evidence of 2 previous business partners of Rebecca's who died under suspicious circumstances. Both had been wealthy. Both had changed their wills shortly before dying. Both deaths had been ruled natural causes at the time. Kyle's sister Mia called me, crying. She was 16 and had been at boarding school during everything. She hadn't known. "I can't believe Mom did this," she sobbed. "I can't believe Kyle helped her. I don't have anyone now." "Yes, you do," I said. "You have me. And you have my father, for as long as we have him." We brought Mia to live with us. Dad set up a trust for her education, legally protected, untouchable by her mother. She started therapy. Slowly, she began to smile again. Dad and I spent his remaining time making memories. We took a road trip down the California coast. We went through old photo albums. He taught me everything about running Chen Industries, even though we both knew I'd probably sell it after he was gone. I didn't want the business. I wanted time with my father. 6 months later, almost to the day the doctors had predicted, Dad died. But he died at home, with me holding his hand, with Mia asleep on a cot nearby, with Mr. Harrison in the next room. He died knowing his real family, not the one bound by marriage and greed, but the one bound by love, was with him. Rebecca got 20 years. Kyle got 15. Marcus got 12. None of them showed remorse at sentencing. I sold Chen Industries to a competitor for $60 million. I kept enough to live comfortably, set up a foundation in Dad's name for pancreatic cancer research, and put the rest into trust funds for Mia and for scholarships for kids who'd lost parents. Mia is 19 now, studying art history at Stanford. She still calls me every week. Last Christmas, she told me I was the best big sister she'd ever had. I moved back to San Francisco and took that marketing position. I date sometimes, though I'm more cautious now. I know what people are capable of when money is involved. But I also know what love looks like, real love, the kind that doesn't count the cost. My father gave me that. In his last months, he gave me everything he had left. His time, his truth, his trust. He showed me that the real inheritance wasn't money or business success. It was knowing that someone loved you enough to protect you, even when it cost them everything. Every year, on his birthday, I visit his grave. I bring flowers and tell him about Mia, about the foundation, about my life. And I thank him for the last gift he gave me, the truth. Because he could have died believing the lie. He could have let Rebecca and Kyle win, let them keep pretending to love him. Instead, he chose to know, even though the knowing hurt. He chose to protect me, even though the fight exhausted him. He chose truth over comfort, justice over easy peace. That summer night when Mr. Harrison handed me that USB drive, my whole world changed. I lost my stepmother, my stepbrother, my father's health, and ultimately my father himself. But I gained something too. The knowledge that real family doesn't hide who they are. Real family doesn't love you for what you have. Real family shows up, tells the truth, and stands with you in the dark. And when I needed it most, my father showed me what that looked like, even as he was dying, even when it would have been easier to pretend, even when the truth came at terrible cost. He chose me. He chose us. He chose love. That's the inheritance I'll carry for the rest of my life.